So it's been a while since I made a video. Um, Part of the reason for that is honestly because I felt a lot of whiplash. Um, it's a reaction that I expected. I'm going to explain for myself mostly, but also because I think just maybe the whole human race could take a tip. If you're recording a video, it's usually for yourself, someone else, or the both. So this is a pure sight computer. I feel it's only fair that I would have the right to record or not record whatever I want, especially because it's a computer that I own. So therefore, I don't mind sharing what I want to. The thing that's perhaps the most confounding about sharing is that people then think you're required to share, that they control the sharing, or that they somehow have the right to continue sharing your story, your ideas, your thoughts, your words, verbatim or not. I don't care anymore. I'm doing this for myself, and if other people feel like they can invite themselves into my life, my world, my existence, that is their dysfunction that I choose to disagree with. And we can just agree on that. I'm going to set the mood and energy starting with Izzy and Liv cards. These are Manifest Greatness and Radiate Positivity 75 daily affirmations. Understand that nobody can take from you anything that you're not willing to allow them to take from you. I don't care if they have burned your house to the ground, if they have tried to stomp you out multiple times, if they have attacked you over and over and over again using the same methodology. That doesn't make any difference. When you leave, you're not leaving with any of this as part of your experience, which is the only thing that actually matters. And that's what I'm going to read into today. I don't think it's useful to the earth, to the planet, or to really humanity, really any of humanity, for us to continue in the way that we've been continuing. This is what this card says. I am a beacon of wisdom, learning from every experience and growing every day. So once you look at the rings, the portal right behind her, that is a aura that she's tapping into. Tapping into something is different from doing readings. Those are two separate things. Tapping into an energy simply means you can detect the energy that's in the room with you at any given moment. Readings regarding energy have to do with specifying a point, coming to a conclusion and either confirming or denying it. When you look at a word that is written on a page, although I understand that if you are ESL, like English as a second language, and I don't really think English as a second language has much to do with it. There's so many different languages besides English. We don't have to specify which one of them. I'm saying if your brain does not recognize the word on the flashcard, which, right, the words written here, you're not able to decipher what is transcribed if you don't understand each individual symbol as they are assembled together. It limits the verbal frequency that you are able to communicate via. So you start doing things like playing charades, learning sign language, acting things out. That's a medium of language that is kind of like numbers, kind of like numbers. It's a universal, perhaps intergalactic, maybe interstellar mode of communication that should either convey an idea or not. What I want to know and what I want to confirm today is that the energetic signature of the human being is equivalent to a biometric pick line. If you've ever been to the hospital and seen somebody who's got an IV drip, they usually put it here in the back of your hand. It's called a pick line, or here as an IV, right? I mean, it could be on either arm, I don't know. It's biometric information that is picking up on the complexity of your DNA. It's a machine that is either pumping a fluid into you or fluidly pumping it out. You can draw blood with needles, and you can also provide hydration with needles. This is why worrying about other people seeing something, reading something, believing something, stealing something, that none of that is important. You were born stark naked. And although we've got a tradition of dressing people to the nines before they're, I don't know, doused in formaldehyde or burned alive, not alive, but, burned naked or whatever, their body is burned or disposed of, you're not going to be able to take with you the energetic frequency of everything material around you. You may have had a conscious experience of it. The people who've made your clothes, the people who created the art on the walls, who created a washer and a dryer, who created a bucket and a box, a bench and a table, a computer and a camera and a camera. The experience of interacting with those things is ingrained into your memory by emotional depth. It's emotional depth perception is what I'm trying to say. Just like your eyes have depth perception, your emotional IQ determines your emotional depth perception. This is the Empress card. If you can see, she's got both of her hands opened, yet different energetic frequencies are coming off each, which is what I was just saying about the ability of a needle to give and take. It's got suction, it's got injection. if we were to think of energetic experiences while we grow, while we evolve, while we consume, the consumption of each other's energy strategically has caused love and war, has caused love and war. Yes, there's a plethora of emotional intervals in between. However, this alignment with both sides of yourself, as well as the forward and backward thinking mind, is what creates stability within self. You can't experience love if you've never experienced discomfort. You can't experience discomfort if you've never known what comfort felt like. It's the same difference. You can't see black unless you've seen white. It's not quite that cut and dry. However, I am just saying this is the balance that I am trying to bring up about palmistry and about the give and take aspect. Here, she's got a ball of light in the palm of her hand. She's holding it. Here, she's got streams of source energy being reflective, not only on itself, but on whatever she's focused on. And she's got her eyes open in both directions, so I would say, it's pretty straightforward. But also they're closed because she's in deep thought. She's in meditation, contemplation of consciousness. There's nothing to learn if you already know everything. So it's perhaps one of the most frustrating and preposterous ideas, not only within the school system, but within religion. If we begin deciding for one another what is acceptable to think, what is acceptable to feel. Yeah, sure, what you say and what you do needs to maybe be tempered. But there's also, There's also this I'll say preponderance of evidence that would support this. This is the universe. And as many different points of light as you could see out there, that's as many different opportunities as you've got to connect, not only with each other, but with yourself through different experiences that you may or may not have in this lifetime. I'm going to give this a shuffle. So you've got the Empress and the universe. I'd like to ask the universe specifically if there's any benefit to replicating or doing your best outside of like an artistic expression of like I don't know, or parody, or maybe satire. Is there any actual benefit to attempting to be or not to be somebody else outside of yourself, somebody else, some other human, some other entity? a possession of thought of a belief in ideals that do not have answers when you ask questions, that you don't seem to necessarily naturally relate to or naturally experience. And what that does, I'd like to know all of the above. All of the above. I just kind of, okay. This is Justice card coming right out. I want you to look at this very closely, okay? Because here, this is a sword. And at the tip of the sword is where the brightest point of energy is. So this would, in this specific reading, denote that you're only seeing half the picture. You're only seeing half the picture when your words, and we've just talked about specifically this card, the understanding of words, how we decipher language, and our emotional intelligence. If all of that depends upon the tip of the tongue, the flick of a wrist when you're signing something, anything really, anything really, your heart at the end of your life, I'm just seeing if I was to cut this card straight in half, what we would see is on half the card is a woman bearing herself, bearing it all, right? It doesn't mean that over here the scales of justice are going to change. If you know Egyptian mythology or are into deities, then you know that your name is going to be written in a big book. I'm making this is like real satirical, I guess, reference to religion, and not to poke fun, but I am saying if your heart and your mind are weighed against each other, would your intentions match what is on your heart? If you are living your life as somebody that you are not, this scale will never be balanced. This scale will remain the same as if you had never invoked a guttural verbal response. Emotionally, verbally, mentally, however you'd like to put, spiritually speaking. This is not this weight of the world, the weight of the moon, of gravity on the moon versus the weight of gravity on Earth, or gravity on whatever planet she's standing on. Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, blah, 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 Nibiru, right? That gravity, if you were to compare and contrast the two in terms of give and take, we're still talking about needle functions. What we need is a natural comparison between the two. If any progress is to be made, not only scientifically, but, personally. That's for everyone. That's for everyone. This, I also just want to point out, this sword is actually, she's holding it out to the side. However, in this particular reading and in this particular moment, which is the way that we tap into things, I'm seeing it as being behind her back. She's being dishonest about something. The sword is behind her. Her face is pointed this way. The sword is on this side. She knows her worth. She knows her value. But for some reason, she's turned away from it to consider these things. And it could be to adopt or to adapt or somehow antiquate herself with a different consciousness than the one that she's naturally already destined for. If half the moon goes on one side and the other half that cannot be seen goes on the other side, which one do you think is going to win? Her natural self, or the self that's expected by society, or the self that she is acting from, or the self that she is, mimicking, or the one that she's mocking, or it doesn't matter how you perceive it. It's layers of an onion that have all been peeled back. They're all gone. So this moment of clarity and truth, that little tidbit there being put on one side of the scale, and the moon, or half the moon in this case, because she doesn't know if you're imitating somebody. If you've never seen that movie, Imitation Game, you should go watch it. It's about Germans and signals, telephone signals. Anyway, it's about a machine that has to be um, siphoned. Like, never mind. Just go watch it if you've not seen it. That's kind of what this is. If you're imitating another, the only other scenario that I could think of where this might actually have some semblance of balance is if it is an educational setting, but more so mimicking that is not intentional, such as your children learning to mimic your behaviors, or learning to assimilate for survival. Okay, that's about the only time that I can think of that happening outside of a natural situation like that. And those are not necessarily easy lessons to be learned. They don't have to be. They can be extraordinarily hard, very difficult to learn. But when you stay true to who you are, I am the beacon of wisdom, learning from every experience and growing every day. It's an every one occurrence. It's not just one or two, it's everyone. There's books written on child development, magazines developed about it, stating that, the terrible twos and like the horrible three, whatever. It's got to do a lot more with human development. If we don't ever feel safe enough to push the limit, then we'll never be safe enough to live within it. If we don't ever feel good enough to be ourselves, then we'll never feel good enough to present as ourselves, which is therein kind of both sides of the stratosphere. And I'm just okay. I'm just going to say this. The earth itself is a great example of this truth. Does everything above the equator operate the same as everything below the equator? Does the equator always sit exactly on one axis? Or does it wobble? Does it tilt? Does it turn? Does it rotate? Like how which way is up in the middle of the universe? Truth. Truth. Which way? Is up in the middle. When we hurt, harm, use our earthly humanity our worldly humanity, our inner self outside of the bounds. I mean, it's fine to say I'm really hurt right now. I can't express, or I cannot understand, or I cannot articulate my feelings. Totally normal. What's not normal is to have to sweep it under the rug, have to shovel yourself back out of this. Yeah, look, it's the same. You see that Empress energy coming right back out again? There is that bit of information, the light that shone through the universe that we hold within ourselves to be the truth. And it should be the truth going forward, backwards, sideways, diagonal. I've said that. I've said that. What I'm saying is don't get too caught up on even my words. Don't do that. Don't do that. Get caught up on the fact that the truth inside of yourself is what keeps you grounded, no matter if there's identifying landmarkers along the way, along your journey and path that would indicate to you or try to influence you one way or the other. Your truth will never be their truth, and that is actually a gift. It's a blessing. It's an understanding from the universe that you have your own balance. You have your own half a moon. You have your own side of the hemisphere, if you will. I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm saying this is what's on the other side of this truth, is that you should be able to stand alone with all three parts of yourself: sitting, standing, running, walking, in a wheelchair, on crutches. Any way that you are currently existing is all right. It's part of your human experience. It's all right. It's your right to be yourself. I think I might switch decks. Yeah, let me switch decks real quick. I don't feel like this needs to be probably as complicated as it sounds, so I'm going to try to simplify it a little bit using the mix and match deck. This is going to be a testament to the fact that so we've already figured that out. This it's a back and forth. It's a how much love have you given, and how much love have you been able to give? This idea of hatred really doesn't work. It doesn't mean that you'll never feel it, either towards or coming from other entities around you, other people, places, and things, other areas of your life. It doesn't mean that. Look, there's the witch right there. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel it. It means you have every right to make up your own mind. Okay, castle came right out. This is this idea within the castle, right? The castle has a moat around it, so mote it be. a castle is right behind her. It's the culmination of your mind. It's the crown chakra. If your brain doesn't understand your heart, then your heart will never understand your brain. And if you don't understand either, and this is no judgment if you don't understand your brain or your heart or either, this is to say you can get to a homeostasis within self once you understand that self has to do with past, present, as well as upcoming human experiences. If you limit yourself to experience only a limited amount of things in this lifetime, then that's going to be the extent of your imagination. It's going to be the extent of your understanding, the extent of your vocabulary, for lack of a better example, the extent of your medical expertise, if you will. You're going to stick with the needle concept. I just see a needle spinning on a compass right now. It's kind of like being out of sorts, or out of whack, out of the ebb and flow. You know, the moon pulls on water, it pulls the tide in and out, depending on how close it is to the earth. The gravity of the moon pulls the water on the earth in or out. There's not really that many in-betweens, except if there's like a tsunami. And that's based off of the earth literally having to tectonically shift. So that's what I'm saying. Here's the tectonic shift. It's an outward orb. If you can see, there's also that portal right behind this one woman. It's the same woman 3 times. This is maybe youth, midlife, and old age. We can put it like that. The culmination, or the overall effect of those experiences, I want to say they lie in between what you feel is real. So you see there's one, two, three kind of holes, gaps, openings available within the crown chakra, right? And if she's sitting peacefully within all of them, maximizing those experiences that she'd like to maximize, minimizing the experiences she'd like to minimize, and listening intently to what she's held near and dear to her heart, that's when this, I do want to say, look, there's that, this is literally a reckoning. It's a reckoning that has to do with balance. And I don't want to say balance in the way that, I think the way that I've just stated it is perhaps the only way that I can. All the negative things that you do don't go on one side, and all the terrible things that you could ever think go on this side. It's not like that. It's more, when you walk into a room, are people excited to see you, or are they scared to see you? How much love have you cultivated for others? How much love have you cultivated for yourself? How much love have you been willing and able to freely give? Not because you wanted someone to see you giving it, not because you wanted someone to praise you for giving it, just because, just because. Love is 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 love. I don't know that the purpose of life has much to do with anything except for love. And if you love holding the burden of, this is how many times I didn't do the dishes, and this is how many times I didn't compliment somebody, you can beat yourself up in exactly the opposite way of people who don't have any conscience at all. They don't think about how many times they've hit someone over the head with a frying pan. They don't think about how many times they've spit someone's, ego back at them, or that they've spit horrible words at other humans directly. They don't think about how many times they've shown respect. They don't think about apologizing. Like, when you're able to do self-evaluation and then find the truth that you truthfully stand within, that's the moment you've spoken with the God that lives inside of you, rather than the God that portrays the world around us. You can use your phone to read the Bible or the Quran or the Torah. That's all good and well. But what have you done about it? Have you taken that and told other people who might have been still asking questions that have not been answered? Shed some light on somebody who didn't know that they could think outside of the box? Maybe even taken it a step further. And once you've come to a stable place in your own life, in your own self, right? You've come to understand, not necessarily always, I'm trying to say this is not an easy process. This is a learning process. That's what life is. We're life learners. Have you then taken that representation and said, hey, I can maybe add something, a new experience to someone else's life that they've never had before, that would remove some of the burden or put some more skill sets, a couple tidbits of information or love, something as simple as a smile to someone walking down the street can actually save someone's life. So think about the opposite. If you've embodied both, then you'll know how both of them feel. If you don't know both, you won't know how they both feel. So this reckoning, this it's an evolution of self. It doesn't have much to do with anything outside of that, is what I want to say. At this point, you're no longer a princess. So let's just put the princess down upside down. The queen is balanced here. The princess is talking to herself because, like we said, what is the direction of up in space? What is it in time? Since timelines are horizontal to our knowledge thus far. To our knowledge thus far, I'm just going to leave it there. This is perfectly fine when you're speaking with the universe because you're reflecting. It's like a mirror reflection. See the crystal ball? Do you see the crystal ball? It's there. She's got 3 points in her crown, or excuse me, 3 jewels. Actually, she's got 5 points, 3 big jewels in her crown. So she's got 4 points of entry, and 3 of those have been mastered here, where you can look at the difference. It doesn't have to do with being right and wrong. It has to be part of your human experience to give and receive in a way that is beneficial for everyone. And it doesn't mean that you're never going to be a bad person. It means that you understand sadness, you understand happiness, you understand feeling desolate, feeling euphoria, feeling the message, the ones that are sent to you. How many messages have you received in a bottle? And how many messages have you sent out? What have your actions done versus what have your words done versus what have your thoughts done? If you want to quote Gandhi in a really roundabout way. I probably wouldn't, because an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. And I'd rather go blind than to receive and send out 1,000 bottles of truth, love, hate, and never get a response back from myself. To always have to live this, if this is the birthday, right, and this is the mad dash of life, would you prefer to never know yourself and follow the crowd for the entire time? Or would you prefer to perhaps, develop yourself and then become your own princess, become your own person, become part of humanity that will supersede the unnecessary portions of life, as it were. Right. I'm gonna get one last card for the justice, please. I'm gonna shuffle again. Oh. Okay, just one card, please. Yep. And there we have it. I'm gonna hold these both ways because I feel like people get really caught up on which side. I don't think any of that matters. Think of yourself as being inside either the washing machine or the dryer, okay? And you're on tumble. Because you come tumbling out of your mother's womb when you're born. You live your life and then you go tumbling back out into the universe. This is the other part. Remember I was saying you're only seeing about half the moon. This is the other half. That I want to say this is actually showing me both directions how this goes. This is self-fulfillment here. And we did start off that way in this particular reading, but go ahead and flip the camera. Flop the camera, put on them flip-flops, right? Just whatever way you'd like to. You can even put me upside down if you want to watch the reading that way. This is how humanity is able to give itself a bow. Bow for yourself because you are a divine being having a human experience. Along your journey, like I said, you might have to have some heart-to-hearts. Just, if we're looking at this upright, this part of yourself is offering this, she's actually got her hands folded at her heart. She's offering herself heart advice for her head, because here she's not yet gotten, the crown of middle age, maybe, right? Hasn't hit her yet. When you're a youth and you don't have this idea of good and evil, you come into the world innocent with no money, no idea of good and bad, no societal pressure trying to sway you one way or another. It one way or another doesn't mean anything to an infant baby. So that's what this is. It's the evolution. Maybe you're maybe you're kind of rough and tumble. Yeah, pun intended if we're looking at this as like forward and backwards. Maybe you're considered like it's the balancing of the two sides of self, of your masculine and feminine energies. And as soon as you are able to balance out those two, boom, there you go. That's prestige. That's this whole entire family. Let me just put it backwards so that y'all can see all of this together in the way that I'm trying to explain it here. You could have been not as refined. Maybe you're identify. I'm gonna give an example, okay? You identify as a female. As a child, though, you really loved playing sports. You were much more likely to climb a tree, stub your toe, uh, uh, just get in dirt, and uh, you loved camping and not taking showers for days at a time or what. Like that's something that children do. Some adults do that, right? This is just being a little bit more unrefined. Here is the adolescent stage. This is going from Princess Bride to Princess Diaries. And then we've got Mary Queen of Scots, right? Or what was it? Mary Tudor, something like that. It's a process. These things don't just happen overnight. And sometimes when you're there's great expectations put on your. I'm just seeing this heart space here is not having. It's blue. It's open. It's being covered. It's being protected. It's being under the wing of your parent. He's got his wings out there, right? This is being under the assumption that you have not yet kind of tapped into your full potential. There's also this ability to do so, if that's what you would like. You don't have to want any of this, but to become toothless, yeah, it's a lot of behind the scenes, behind closed doors, inner work, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. You don't just wake up one day and have all of your maturing done, ready to walk out into the world toothless. Sometimes it's rather harrowing. But I think it's worth it. So that's why I'm making this video. And I'm glad that I was able to kind of depict what happens within the castle. It's a castle of your own making. It's a castle of your own making. So whatever you want to happen in your castle will happen in your castle. It doesn't mean that, like, if I don't have any money, I don't. I don't have any money right now. That it's just going to appear in the mailbox tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that on a energetic level, me pretending to have money in order to impress society or position myself in a strategic way that I feel would only benefit me and a select group of others with the same agenda or interests or whatever, it will never, ever become toothless. It's going to be a lot of fire breathing. Let me see what comes out with the toothless idea. There it goes. There's a place, a time. You know, people always say all in due time. It's not such a bad idea. And it doesn't have to be a burden to understand that life is a process. So unless you plan on expiring tomorrow or the next day or the next day or the next, I don't know, then you still have learning. You still have time. You can make mistakes and it'll be all right. You can make mistakes and it will be all right. People will always try to make you feel like this is the very last note and the very last bottle that you will ever experience. No, that's look, that's literally that materialistic. If you don't get the car now, the deal's gonna go off the table. That is such a consumerist mindset. Whatever deal is for you, whatever lifestyle is for you, whatever universe you are manifesting for yourself to live in, it will be there for you when you're ready. The correct one, the right one. I'm not talking about right as in right-handed. I'm talking about the optimal situation will occur without any kind of strife. Do you see her climbing? This is how it came out. That opportunity right there, you won't even have to work for it once you get to that certain point. To that certain point where you're home inside of yourself. Rather than finding home in whatever surrounding you're dropped into whatever society expects from you, whatever humanity thinks is their elite or correct at. I could keep going, but it doesn't matter. It's like it's like an opportunity to connect with yourself that if you don't take now, then probably humanity won't ever really choose to do that. It doesn't mean that you have to be, like I said, in agreement, working with, conspiring against. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means you're being with yourself. That you can have whatever experience you'd like to have on every level. It doesn't have to be evil. And being yourself should be the farthest thing from cruelty that is. We're all sometimes mean, we're all sometimes cruel, we're all sometimes this, we're all sometimes that. It depends on if you choose to approach that. Approach yourself. It's probably one of the uh, I'll just leave that for you to find out. Yeah, just leave that for y'all to find out. It doesn't have to be so redundant. It doesn't have to be so mundane, and it doesn't have to be all that extraordinary either. It can just be what it is. To be or not to be. As long as you're alive, you don't really have a choice about that, because I'm telling you, time and space is up. Probably will drag you through it either way. So you might as well enjoy the parts that you can, examine the parts that you don't understand, ask questions, explore, discover, maximize, and honestly, I mean, give and receive love as often as possible. That's it. That's it. There's not a lot more to say about that. Be the person that you would want to hang out with, which means hanging out with yourself sometimes. Okay? On that note, we get one more Izzy and Liv, and then I'm gonna I don't know what I'm gonna do, but you know. It says, I deserve to express my thoughts and feelings without judgment. There's that justice card. Okay. I couldn't have summarized that any better than I have attempted to do thus far today, and I think dabba 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 dabba, that's all, folks.